So, a little thing about me is I love the Hitman games. They are truly one of my favourite game series out there. So, my partner came to me with an idea for a challenge. Is it possible to beat Hitman 2016 with only the rubber duck? Now you might be asking, what is the function of a rubber duck? Well, it goes... The rules are simple. I'm only allowed one duck per level, and the only way I can eliminate a human target is with the explosion from the duck, or a consequence of that explosion. Also, I am going to do my best to not kill guards, but it is allowed. Other gadgets, such as guns, will be allowed as well, as long as the duck gets the killing blow on the targets. But first, why don't you subscribe so you can say you've been following me from the very beginning? Hi everyone, it's Whoie from the future here. Now, you might know already, but this video is a remaster of some of my oldest videos. Now, I've done my best to improve upon this video. However, it's still got a few issues, such as me struggling to breathe during audio recordings. So I've got a fun challenge for you. Why don't you comment below exactly how many times I've breathed and you can hear it. The winner will get an imaginary cookie. Anyway, enjoy the video. We start off in Paris, where I have an idea on how to eliminate the targets with one explosion. There is a mission story in Paris where you can push one target off of a balcony onto the other target, killing them both in one action. So I thought to myself, why don't I just push her off the ledge with the explosion from the duck, and her lifeless body will take out the other target for me. So I grab a few disguises, the firework remote device, and head up to the balcony where I attempt this strategy. On my first attempt, it was to no avail. However, after multiple attempts, I started to get an idea of exactly where her lifeless body would land, and how I can replicate it. It was also around this time that I had another idea. What if I knock out the other target, and drag him exactly to where the lifeless body of the other one is going to land? And that's exactly what I did. I planted the duck, dragged him to the specific tile where the other target lands, and pulled the trigger of the explosive, watching her fall onto my target, who miraculously survives the impact. Honestly, I was convinced this would work, but it turns out it's a mission story specific kill. My heart sank on seeing my failure, but not all hope was lost, for there was another way to do it. I would have to get both of these targets into one location, which I would need to do by initiating a security lockdown protocol, which I initiate by taking out the head of security in the stealthiest way possible. I then take his phone, initiate the lockdown protocol, get both targets in their safe room, and they meet their fate to the rubber duck. This mission could have been a whole lot easier if I knew what I was doing a bit more, but oh well. Next up is Sapienza, where I equip the exact same loadout I had last mission, and I start to investigate. Now, in Sapienza, it seems like another mission where you can't get both targets in one exact location, so it looks like I'm going to have to do it myself. I knock out the golf coach as stealthily as possible, and I lure Francesca into a back room. I then knock her out and initiate a target lockdown by shooting the wall near the target. This makes the other target run near the room that I've been held up in, so I knock out every single one of this guy's guards and stealthily drag his body up to that very room where Francesca's being held. I then plant the explosive duck, go destroy the virus, and on my way out I hit that trigger, killing them both instantly, and that's another mission done with only the explosive duck. This was a relatively easy mission, to be fair, but I do wish I could have destroyed the virus with the duck, but I really don't give a fuck. Next up is Marrakesh, where we can actually manage to get both targets to meet by heading to both bases and calling the other target up for a little get-together. But to do this, we have to infiltrate both target strongholds, and doing this is a challenge in of itself. Not because of the duck limitation, but because I'm not the greatest of gamers. Once I call one of them to the tunnels, I knock him and his guards out, and go and call the other one. But on his way down, he turned around and walked away on the multiple attempts that I tried, from what only I can assume was anatidophobia. Eventually, I did manage to knock him out, and I dragged both of the fellas together and made them go boom with the duck. It was a relatively simple mission once again, without much challenge. The hardest part for me was honestly procuring the disguises to infiltrate the strongholds, but I think, once again, I only had trouble with it because I'm not the greatest of gamers. Little did I know, it was only going to get harder from here. Next up is Bangkok.
Get out of my face, fool!
Where I once again need to get both targets to meet up to blow them up. This mission is actually relatively easy because it can all be accomplished via a mission story. What I need to do is disguise myself as a fumigator and go talk to the receptionist to lure one of the targets down to the reception area at the same time as the other target crosses through reception. This will get them both to come together and have a very civil conversation.
Cut the shit, Morgan!
However, the timing has to be absolutely perfect where they both cross paths, because if they don't, then I will in fact go bald. After luring them both together and seeing their civil discussion, they head upstairs where I am not allowed to follow. You might be asking, why didn't I just blow them up in the lobby? Well, I'm a lazy cunt, that's why. That and I like ragdoll animations. I then blow up the other target with the duck and escape. I know technically I didn't kill both of them with the duck, so here's an extra clip of me doing that, just for insurance on the challenge for you guys. Next up is Colorado, the single hardest mission in this entire challenge. The reason for this is because there is not a single mission story or challenge where all of the targets converge on one location. However, 2 targets do spawn very close to each other, and the other 2 also spawn close to each other, but that is at the exact opposite side of the compound. For a brief moment, I was worried that I would need to take out every single guard on this level and drag them all into one location before blowing them all up. However, I remembered a little glitch that makes this level complete child's play. The gun law glitch. The trick with this glitch is to place your gun on the floor near the target, which will make them go and get security to pick it up. But if you pick up the gun as soon as they notice it, the target will follow you to the ends of the earth until they get close enough to tell you off. This glitch isn't that easy to replicate for somebody who's never done it before, but after enough practice, I managed to replicate it a few times. After knocking out the first 2 targets and placing their bodies in a shed, and luring one of the other 2 targets, I went to go and attempt to lure the last target. However, an alarm sounded. I had no clue why at this point in time, so I had to reload a save multiple times to figure out what the cause of this alarm was. And I figured out these 2 random ass guards just randomly walked into the shed where I was holding my target's unconscious bodies. So I had to take out these 2 guards before they could sound the alarm, which was very difficult because there is nowhere that these guards go that isn't in public until the very shed that I'm holding the corpses, and by that point, it's too late. By the skin of my teeth, I just barely managed to knock out these 2 guards and hide their bodies in the same shed, before luring my final target into that exact same shed, dragging his body onto the pile of unconscious bodies I made, and blowing them all up with a single explosion from my good old friend the duck. Finally, it's time for Hokkaido, Japan, the final mission in the first Hitman game, and it's a mission where the targets once again do not converge no matter what. In fact, one target is in for heart surgery, and he is under such tight security that it would take multiple hours to get all of the guards taken out and drag one target to the other, and also to get the right outfits to unlock the doors. So I had an idea. What if instead I only knocked out half of the guards and dragged one target to the other target's replacement heart, and blow the heart and the other target up, effectively killing them both in one explosion. I made my way to the first target's room, took out all of her security and every single person in the path to the heart, and slowly and painfully dragged her all the way to the replacement heart. I placed the duck, and then nothing. Only she died from the duck. My heart sank once again. Would I have to spend hours clearing every guard on this map because this heart won't be destroyed by an explosion? Do I even have the patience for that? Well, no, I don't. So I reload the save I made and tried again with a different duck placement, and this time it actually worked. I eliminated both targets with one explosion. I know I didn't directly kill the other target with the duck, but the game says that he's eliminated, so shush. Our next stop is good old New Zealand, and I come in as Santa just like he comes in me. This mission was quite unremarkable and quite easy since it's only a single target mission where I've got to break into a house and just, well, blow the target up. There's nothing else to be said about Hawke's Bay, really. All I can really say is I wish the challenge remained this easy for the rest of the run, but that ain't gonna happen, is it? Moving on to Miami, the first proper mission in the game. A simple 2-target mission. Now, in order to give Timothy the Duck a good old double kill, we have to ensure that both targets are in the exact same place at the exact same time. It was here that I realised if my target won the race, then her and the other target will be sent to the winner's podium where they will meet up and exchange a lovely fatherly, daughterly conversation or whatever the hell they're doing. However, since our target does not win the race by default, I had to take a few creative liberties. Once the race was won, we had to wait for the targets to meet in the podium area, and we get our plan ruined by this random ass NPC picking up my duck and walking away. After a brief restart of the whole mission, I just throw the duck directly at the targets and blow them up. I then grab the boat keys and drive off. Another relatively easy mission, it just required a hell of a lot of waiting around, and I do not want to do that again. Next up is the mission Santa Fortuna. Now, to my knowledge, there is no way to get all 3 targets in one location via a mission story. However, there is still hope. There is one mission story where you can get 2 of the targets together and crush them with a statue. So I tested it to see if it was possible to push this statue down with a duck. And amazingly, I could do it. So with this revelation in mind, all I had to do was drag the final target's unconscious body to the base of the statue, which I managed to do as peacefully as possible. After a long and arduous drag across the entire map, I had everything fully set up and ready. I then commenced the mission story by drumming in a band. However, 2 random NPCs kept noticing the body every time I reloaded the save, so in order for me to complete this challenge, I'd have to take them out as well, which I managed to do after a solid 45 minutes of trying that I don't have footage of. Once the NPCs were taken care of, we put our plan into action and blew the duck up, killing our first target and knocking down the statue, killing our other 2 targets. This mission may have been simple, but my god, those NPCs that I needed to take out took so many attempts I was just starting to go insane. But here's the kicker, it's only going to get harder from here. The next mission will drive me completely insane. Now we are on to Mumbai, which even the sheer mention of this mission makes me want to go into a corner and cry and think about my actions. This mission absolutely sucked. There's no mission story that I know of that makes all 3 targets converge on one location once again. So, at the start, I decided to take a creative liberty and allow this random act of God to take out my first target. And then, this caused a chain reaction that made the other 2 targets meet up on a nearby bridge, where I blew them up with the duck. However, with all this said and done, I wasn't happy, so I went back for myself, and I knocked out 2 of the targets, dragging them across the entire, very highly populated map into a sewer, and then I went to the 3rd and final target and used my little gun law glitch to lure her over.
You look like a foolish little...
However, this took so long. I think I've got about 5 hours of footage from Mumbai alone. So when I finally managed to pull it off, put all 3 unconscious targets on top of each other and put the rubber duck there and hit that trigger, it was the most satisfying moment in my whole YouTube career. Well, you know, other than this. Now we move on to Whittleton Creek, where I decide to blow off some of that pent-up steam I built in Mumbai by slaughtering every single person that stood in my way. Which honestly, it made the mission so easy, I honestly wish I hadn't done it, but my challenge, my rules. So, the hardest part of this mission was actually doing the side objective where I had to gather clues, because I never pay attention to games apparently, I just didn't know where anything was. Now it's time for the Isle of Seagull.
Someone's in a hurry to get inside. Well, no one's putting a gun to your head.
which is just another easy, simple 2-target mission. And by this point, I was so sad and beat up from doing all the other missions that I just used a simple gun law glitch on one of the targets, bringing them both together in an upper floor of the building and hitting the trigger of the duck, killing them both instantly. This mission was just so easy, and it was actually really nice to see, because the others have just, they've been too painful, and I can't even turn that pain into good content because it's just me being stupid. Although it is worth pointing out, in the Isle of Seagull, it did take me a fair bit of time to pull off the gun law glitch, because once again, I am very piss poor at video games. Next up is New York. And yes, I'm doing the DLCs too. New York was a really easy, uneventful mission, which is a nice change of pace because of the difficulty from earlier. However, it was kind of boring, so I spent the majority of this mission gooning. The reason this mission was so easy was simply due to the fact that it was an easy 1-target mission, meaning I can just throw Timothy directly at the target, no hesitation, and blow her the fuck up. Finally, it's time for the final mission, Haven Island, where I easily use the gun law on 2 of the targets who spawn quite close to me, and I take them into my little shack, knock them out, and start heading towards the final target's location. Once I'm there, I keep trying to place the gun down to do the gun law glitch for a final time, but every time I try it, one of his guards or a bloody butler looks at the gun and does the glitch and decides to follow me. So it looks like this target's going to need a little bit more finesse to get him to follow me. Which, in the end, I managed to do. I managed to lure the target all the way over to my little shack with the other 2 targets, knock him out, get dressed as Santa, place a duck, and blow them all up, heading to a nearby speedboat for an easy escape. We can finally move on to Hitman 3, starting in Dubai. In this mission, we make use of How the Mighty Falls mission story by hacking into the building's security system and setting a meeting for the targets. I then go and grab a guard's disguise and make my way to the top of the building. Once all this setup is done, I manage to make my way into the penthouse where both targets are and blow them both the fuck up with the duck. Easy mission. IGN 7 out of 10. Even though this mission was pretty easy, I suppose that was to be expected since it's the very first mission of the game. Next is good old England. A 1-target mission. Nothing notable here other than the seemingly incestuous rich family. Anyway, we grab the detective's disguise and head up to the target's office to frame the butler for the murder mystery that this mission story has. We then ask for the other objective as payment from the target, and then blow this loving grandmother off the fucking roof. Another pretty easy, unremarkable mission. Now it's time for Berlin. A minimum 5-target mission. I suppose this is payback for that 1-target mission I just sailed through. This mission takes place in like a crowded nightclub where all the targets can see through your disguises, meaning my favourite glitch, the gun law glitch, is now off the table. In order to do this mission, I will need to gather all 5 targets in the same location. Luckily, there is a mission story where you disguise yourself as a nightclub owner and set a meeting with 5 of the targets in one secluded room. Now, my original plan for this mission was to get some propane tanks and lay them all about the room and blow them up with a duck, but when I placed the duck to set the trap before they all walked in, one of the targets just kept picking up the duck because, I don't know, maybe it was just enticing, maybe he wanted to have a bath with it or some shit. But after numerous attempts of doing this, I discovered there was a far, far simpler way. If I just kneecapped all the targets and knocked them out before dragging their bodies into a massive pile near the desk, then it would just be a far easier time than having to blow up the propane tanks, fail, reload the save, blow them up again, reload the save, you get what I'm saying. After hours of attempts and trying to knock out each target and drag them together, eventually I did it. And I know I said in the previous video that the most satisfying explosion that I did was in Mumbai, but this one takes the cake. With all the bodies stacked up on each other, I hit that trigger and saw them all go flying. This mission was pretty easy, and I expected it to be a hell of a lot harder since there was like 5 targets, but since I managed to get them all in one location via a mission story, it actually made it relatively easy. But maybe next time I'll try and attempt this mission duck only without a mission story, then I think I'll go insane. Now we move on to the next mission. This mission is probably the easiest of them all. I just hide the duck in a passageway in a bin and then shoot down every single drone, causing 2 pissed off targets to come and meet each other in that very passageway. I then hit the trigger from the balcony and watch them go flying from afar before just walking into the nearest apartment to exit the mission. Now we're in Mendoza, the second to last mission in the game. Here, there is a challenge that sets up a meeting with both targets, but to be honest, that would have been too easy. So for the final time in this series, it's time for me to reintroduce my good old gun law glitch. I place a pistol by one of the targets, and as soon as he notices it, I pick it up. After walking down to the other target and failing a few times, I finally got them close enough to each other to place the duck and blow them both up with relative ease before exiting the mission. Once again, another easy mission. Now finally, it's time to move on to the final mission, the train mission in the mountains. As I equip my loadout to prepare for this mission, I realise I cannot bring in any outside equipment whatsoever. No matter what, no matter my starting location, there is no way for me to bring a duck into this mission. There isn't even a duck in this mission for me to use, so it's just impossible to complete in a traditional sense. However, there is one loophole. Once I make it to the end of the train, I am offered a serum that makes Agent 47 forget his memories and become a slave to the target, and on taking, the mission ends. So technically, I have beat the mission, but I didn't kill the target and I didn't use the rubber duck, so it's a technicality. And you guys know me, I hate technicalities, so I went back to do a satisfying end to this video and put a bullet in the target's head. Was this whole challenge a success, or just a complete waste of time? You decide in the comments below, because I've got no fucking clue now. Hey guys, future Whoie here. I'm ending the video right now, and I'm not going to subject you to any more of this dog shit. I don't know how you watched all of this. It made me want to die editing. How?